Okay, great. So I think we can get started. I see a good list of the participants building up, and a few more folks will join. So I'll take this opportunity to welcome Rube, Melissa, and Jagriti. Thank you to all three of you for joining this session on our group. Um, just a quick word about our RAAH group, and I'll hand over to you guys for the introduction. We started this group over a year back at the time when the whole COVID was started, and we saw immediately there was a huge impact on the employment. People were getting laid off, they were losing jobs, they were getting furloughed. So we saw an opportunity how we can help the folks out there in their job search. I mean, me plus a few of the founding members of the RAAH group, we have years and years of corporate experience. So we thought, how can we like come together and help everybody out in terms of their resume preparation, the job interviews, the LinkedIn profile, and also at the same time help everybody on connecting with the recruiters and the industry experts. And as we started with that journey, we get a lot of questions about the career transition. There were some folks who were trying to move from a finance field to an IT field, or any other background to some other career. So that's where we started to put more focus on how we can bring more industry experts on our platform and help people connect with each other. And this is completely non-profit, completely no charges to everybody, anyone. So more than a year, we have almost like 1,500 plus members right now on our group, and we have done a lot of resume reviews, interview preparation, and with everybody's effort, we have almost been able to help almost 30 people find that job in last few years, in last 1 year, I would say. But at the same time, we have also helped a lot of people in getting connected with the recruiters and the industry experts. So no, so with that, there were a lot of curiosity amongst the team members about the blockchain, right? It has been in the news for several good reasons, and there were questions about the career transitions. What can we do? Which industry where we can go? What type of training and the courses are out there, which we can use to get prepared for that. So I just thought maybe we can have this mini session with everybody where you can share your experience, your background with everyone, and then just people can take the questions, they can ask the questions as we go along. Does sound good?
Sounds great.
Great, perfect. So with that, I'll start with a quick introduction and the bio of all three of you, and then if you want like to expand on that. So first, Ruth, thanks for joining. I know you have been a blockchain expert, educator, strategist, TEDx speaker. You're an author. You are also started the Incute Factory, where you are consulting, giving advising to the companies. I mean, great. Anything you would like to add, Ruth, there?
Yeah, just a clarification. Thanks for that wonderful introduction, and I love the concept behind your nonprofit. So we're happy to support you guys. Just a clarification: I'm almost an author. The book has not been published yet, so we'll talk a lot more about that. But thanks for the introduction.
Okay.
And I'm just here for the fun. This is a Melissa and Jagriti show. I just want to watch them talk, actually.
That's a good man. Let the girls talk.
No pressure at all.
I know.
I think I have a choice, Melissa.
I love it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Roop. And then Melissa, I know you are a founder and the CEO of the Elevate hiring company. And that company I spoke with you was founded in the Atlanta Tech Village, which is the hotspot here in Atlanta with all the startups and all the venture capitalists. And you mentioned that you have been in this blockchain world since 2013.
Yes. Since the beginning of BitPay.
Yeah, I was
It's the
going to
beginning
say,
of
we have some
BitPay.
common connections here.
Yes.
No, great. Anything you would like to add, Melissa?
No, that I'm excited to be here, and clearly I'm passionate about both things, helping people find jobs, but also blockchain as well. I had the luxury of, in 2013, Tony and Steven of BitPay coming to me, just the two of them being like, we need to hire a lot of people fast, and we need blockchain experts. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. So it's been a wild ride since.
Okay, great. And actually a good segue since you mentioned about the BitPay. So Jagriti, I know you are a CFO at BitPay. It's been, I think, like a year or a couple of years you have been with the company. Anything you
It's
would like
been,
to add there?
it's
Yeah.
been 7 months. It
It's
feels
been
like
7 months, so still
yeah,
new.
less than a year.
Feels like a long time, doesn't it, Jagat?
I feel like I've just been here forever. I've never been anywhere else. Uh,
Okay, it's great. Sorry, Jagriti, you were saying something?
no, I was just going to say, so yeah, before BitPay, I was an audit partner at a CPA firm, but yeah, it feels like BitPay forever.
Perfect,
Yeah,
perfect.
Sumit, I'll also add just this one tidbit about the three of us. We all are part of the TAG Blockchain Society. So
Great.
Jagriti leads the events for us, and Melissa reluctantly leads the sponsorship side for us this year. So we'll talk a little bit more about the TAG Blockchain Society as we go along.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. No, so thank you all three of you for giving the introduction. And I will encourage every participant who is on call right now, if you would like to come on the video, don't hesitate, don't feel shy if you are sitting outside or wherever. I think it will just make it a little bit more interactive. And I will also encourage everybody, if you have any questions as the panelists are talking about on the blockchain and the career opportunities, if you have any questions, any clarifications, anything you would like to repeat, please, again, don't hesitate and ask the question. And then in terms of the just the agenda, Ru, maybe we can first start with you overall. If you can give us like a bigger, like the blockchain picture, what that technology is for first couple of minutes, because there has been some curiosity, people wanted to understand a little bit. And then maybe we can then start shifting towards from our main focus of today about the job and the career aspect, meaning which industries are out there getting onto the blockchain, which cities, which states are getting more focused on this whole new technology. And then Melissa and Jagvedi, you can talk about, some the new career opportunities, the job opportunities we are out there. And then we can just wrap up afterwards with some questions and answers with our participants.
Sure, happy to.
Okay.
So are there any specific questions that I can address about the industry? I'm happy to give a broad overview, but if there's specific questions, just feel free to write that in the chat box. So let's just start with the basics. And I see a couple of familiar names here. I see Preeti. Hi, Preeti. Preeti Shah. Seen her in other such forums. So what is blockchain? I hope everybody's familiar with that, but just a basic definition since we get all kinds of definitions in the world. So blockchain to me is a cryptographically secure distributed ledger with a shared state. What that means is that it is a ledger, but it is distributed in the way it's stored, and it has a common shared state amongst the participants who stored it. So with that basic definition, let's talk about the industry. So this year to me has been a breakthrough year, 2021, for blockchain, digital assets, NFTs and such. As you've seen, Coinbase went IPO a few months ago, and I think that's set the market ablaze. Now we have an established target for exit for a crypto/blockchain based company. One of the questions you had asked me before, why is it getting so popular? I think it's because of the rising crypto prices, although they are in a dip today. But you'll see, crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these types of currencies that you hear about hit an all-time high earlier this year. So that's one of the reasons people start to find the underlying technology of blockchain. Although I must emphasize that blockchain has a number of different use cases and not just cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency to me is in fact the simplest of blockchain use cases. So the revolution is just beginning. I believe we are in the second phase of evolution of this space. The first phase being the first 10, 11 years of Bitcoin's evolution. And then we're now getting into an era where a lot of companies have experimented with POCs with blockchain. They're now coming out with new products. We went through a trough of disillusionment about 2-3 years ago, from 2017 to about 2020. And we're just now coming out of it with a lot more interesting products, a lot more money flowing into the space. There's a report that just came out by CB Insights that talks about that this is the best time to be a blockchain startup because funding is just through the roof. And I believe part of that has to do with Coinbase and Coinbase Ventures putting a lot of money back into the space. So for blockchain technology and all the enabled use cases like NFTs that have taken the news by storm, you must have followed that, and digital assets, this is a great year. So happy to expand on any of that. If you ever doubted that this technology has potential, talk to me. I love talking to skeptics. There's a few talks coming up where I'll deal specifically with myths and criticism and skepticism around the space.
Okay, that's a great intro to the technology. And Anupam, I think you also mentioned earlier on the call that you did some POCs some time ago around the blockchain. Maybe he stepped away. So thanks, Roop. I don't know if anyone else from the participants have any question on the technology, want to understand anything more?
I mean, there's a lot to go into.
Yeah,
Let's keep it high level for now.
for sure, for sure.
I would encourage you guys to look at a lot of free available talks out there. And I know this topic can get confusing. So one thing to understand is blockchain is not merely a technology for me, it is a strategy. So you have to understand the business side of things. You have to understand how ecosystems develop and how value proposition develops for a particular startup or a solution that you're trying to create for an end consumer. And that's where I find a lot of blockchain startups and even larger companies looking for products have not been able to launch them successfully because they have largely ignored the business side, but have been much focused on the technical aspects of blockchain or blockchain-enabled solutions.
For sure. Great.
Yeah. So
So
now we're done with the boring part, so we can get to the exciting part.
now let's get to the exciting part, definitely. So maybe if you can talk about Roop, you and maybe Melissa, like what kind of industries and the companies which are getting onto the blockchain, where this excitement is a little bit more, what industries they are still thinking about it. So if you can just elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I'll kick that off, and Melissa, you can take over then.
Sure.
That's an interesting question because to me, back in 2011, Mark Andreessen said, software is eating the world. So to me, in 2021, blockchain is eating the world. There are over 100 use cases I can count off today. There are over 50 industries that are being revolutionized, depending on which way you look. In terms of adoption, you could say financial services is probably the leading one, and then followed by supply chain and logistics and healthcare, etc. But it's also, there are new industries that are new spaces that are coming up. It's not the same old guard that is the leader in this space. It's the new spaces that are coming up, things that we had never monetized before. Now we can monetize using this technology. So to me, DeFi or decentralized finance and the concept behind NFTs or non-fungible tokens and monetizing things like real estate and art and even other physical and other digital objects that were not able to be traded before easily are now being traded. So to me, those are way more exciting than revolutionizing old and boring industries, in my opinion. Melissa?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was the wild, wild west early on. And then it sort of tamed down a little bit and was heavily focused a lot in as Roop said, the fintech world, payments, banking has been looking at it for quite some time. But as Roop just mentioned, I feel like there's this whole new area that didn't even exist outside blockchain that is coming into existence that I think is really incredible. I think another thing that is important with it is data integrity and data security, along with, warehousing and supply chain and all of that. So there's many areas that it will help shape the different, us OGs, so you've been hearing it for some time that blockchain is really going to be a big part of Web 3.0, right? Essentially. So it's going to kind of take over technology as a whole to some degree and probably be bits and pieces all around and affecting nearly almost every industry, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
What's
Jagruti, you might have some thoughts on the fintech side as well.
Yeah, I think, outside of just the fintech in general, right? Like the way I look at blockchain, it's more like a subledger. I mean, you think about, again, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA. So to me, an underlying subledger that serves as source of truth for anything else that needs to spin out of that, right? Blockchain could do that, or a blockchain ledger could do that. And fintech, like BitPay, for example, we are a payment processing company. The way we use blockchain is to process payments using digital assets and digital assets that kind of travel through a blockchain ledger, so to speak. And to me, it's really broader than blockchain being just a pure database, so to speak, right? Like you could almost use that as a subledger where you could parse out information. You could, I guess, use predictive analytics or AI or whatever you need on top of that database to kind of make it relevant for whatever business you are in, whether it's supply chain or fintech or anything else. I mean, it kind of goes back to how can you use the database?
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Great. And then in terms of the cities, I mean, we know that, some people call Atlanta as the fintech capital of US or things like that. Melissa, we were talking the other day, you mentioned that Miami is getting pretty much hot on the whole blockchain. What are your thoughts? Like which cities, like is it Atlanta, Miami is getting hot, or there are like more cities which are coming up?
I think it's a lot of the big cities for sure. DC's big one, California, New York, Atlanta. Atlanta not even as much, but we certainly have, I think part of Atlanta's big pull in it was a BitPay that kind of brought talent and resources and knowledge to the community, which was unique for a company like that starting in Atlanta. And then Miami is being really bullish right now on from a government mayor, attracting companies to come to Miami and to try to create this kind of ecosystem. So I think you're going to be seeing it popping up in all major cities, and some of the biggest accounting or consulting companies like Deloitte has one of the biggest blockchain groups and teams out there, and they're kind of everywhere. So it's interesting where it all is shaping out, but I think you can kind of find it now in every big city.
Got it. So to
Yeah.
your point, Melissa, is Deloitte getting onto the blockchain for their own internal technology purposes, or getting ready to give consulting to their clients?
I think for many years, a lot of them have been investing deeply on how they can utilize it internally, externally, thinking about careers and stuff. Like some of the biggest segment of the marketplace for careers in this industry is not just going to be the developers, but the consultants that can go in and train, because the longest time leaders, managers, even CTOs, CIOs, they didn't really grasp the nature of blockchain and the technology behind it all. And so as we move to that, and as certain things move to that, companies are going to be forced to somewhat partake in it. And so they're going to need that consultancy. So I think Deloitte was smart to be thinking about that early on. But we need marketers, we need accountants, we need,
For sure,
legal is huge. So it's really not just in the technologies, sector, even though that's a very big part of it. We're going to need the whole ecosystem that surrounds it as well.
yeah, no, correct. And I think to your point, we need consultant, not only consultant, but also the legal as well, because we can see where this could be going in the future. So better be prepared from the legal aspect as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, It's great.
Yeah, it's funny. LinkedIn alone said at the end of 2020, the highest ranking jobs, the highest most needed job posted on LinkedIn was blockchain. And they were incredibly sort of surprised by that, right? And that was towards the end of 2020. And really, like Roop said, we've had this pop in 2021, which has been really exciting. I think the more from the crypto side of it has really sort of brought light to it. But I think what it's done, the crypto side, is get a lot of smart people together thinking about, okay, what is this all about? How can I get invested? How can I partake? What's going on? And it's kind of created this sort of tribal effect of everybody kind of following and engaging and trying to figure it all out, you know? So I think you see a lot of people just really engaging. You know, I know some people have been in it for just a couple of years, but they're pretty, you know, senior, and it's changed. It's evolved so much, even from, you know, when I first started in 2013 to now, and it keeps changing. Like NFTs really just hit the market, and I'm like, you've got to, all of us, even if you've been in it, including Roop and everyone, like we all have to be constantly educating ourselves because it's changing and morphing and adapting and so quickly for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just when you think you know it, it gets more complex.
There's a figure, a statistic I remember from a while ago, I think almost 2 years ago now, that there were, for one senior blockchain engineer, there were 24 jobs available. So this one person who, by senior definition, you're probably 3 to 4 years into it, and you would call yourself a senior blockchain engineer. And there were 24 jobs for you to get into. So just think about that in terms of career opportunities. And most of them are honestly coming from well-funded startups. Mm-hmm. So if you look around the globe, there are plenty of well-funded startups in this space. As I said, a lot of venture money has been flowing. Andreessen Horowitz just announced a $1 billion new fund. They already had a $565 million fund, and their $1 billion fund was oversubscribed to the tune of $2.2 billion. Wow. Where's that money going to go? In startups. And who to hire? Melissa, to find them all the blockchain engineers they could possibly find. So you know, from a career standpoint, this space is just beginning to grow.
Yeah. And not only that, is there's, you know, supply and demand, there's a good 20-30% more, you know, you make more just with that expertise in all the arenas, not just tech, you know.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was thinking about when Roop mentioned there were like 24 jobs available, but you know, huge demand than supply. Then you can see the salaries and the compensation and everything. It will be like through the roof when you are in such that position.
Jagruti, what do you see within BitPay and your plans? Are you guys hiring?
Yeah, we are hiring like all the time. Yeah, I mean, I think there's, you know, I almost call it like the market is so hot that it's hard. It's not easy to keep people, and it's not easy to recruit people, right? So retention is another equally key consideration as hiring new people, right? And I guess it's a good problem to have when you know that, you know, you have job security anywhere you step outside with that kind of resume. I mean, I think that's great. The other thing I do want to point out is it's not just crypto companies who are looking for crypto experts. It's also non-crypto companies who are looking to get in crypto space. Like, for example, Visa, PayPal, you got, you know, Robinhood, you got Fidelity, you got so many other companies in not just the fintech area who probably like 3 years back, they would not want to talk crypto. And then today, you know, there's an aspect of those companies who are looking to dabble in digital assets or blockchain to some extent. It's even those companies where there's more opportunities, like the traditional companies, where there's more opportunities for employment, so to speak, with any sort of crypto expertise. So I think if we just purely speak about an employment aspect, there's more opportunities than we had like a couple of years back, because it's not just crypto companies, it's much more than that. Yeah.
That's great, Jagriti. So actually, one question is, now since you are in the industry, plus you are from finance as well, are you also seeing from a finance background? Again, they are taking the classes since this is like distributed ledger and all those concepts you mentioned. Are you seeing some kind of like that traction going on in the finance community as well?
Yeah, actually, on the finance, accounting, and tax side, there's in the US, we don't have any accounting standards yet. There are some tax clarifications that have been out since 2014, but really not a whole lot to give companies or individuals any concrete guidance on what needs to be done. So yes, there's been a lot of, I would say, associations, non-for-profits, subcommittees, where group of peers, a group of experts have got together. They're not necessarily formulating standards or guidance, but more, I would call more practical aid or practical guidance that kind of helps companies give some direction on how to record a certain set of transactions, how to consider tax implications of a certain scenario, etc. So there are some groups that have formalized over past couple of years, who have come up with some sort of practical aid. Now that said, from I guess coming back to your question on the need, I think that's really what you're asking, the need from a finance standpoint for digital asset or crypto experts. There's always going to be that need, and then the reason being, you always want to prefer someone who has the foundational or basic understanding of how digital asset or cryptos work, before you kind of dive all into it. Now, when I look at blockchain, there are really two things. There's a digital asset side of blockchain, and then there is a subledger aspect of blockchain, like the pure technology side, right? Anything that has to do with digital asset or crypto, there's definitely going to be accounting implications. There's going to be tax implications, and those are not easy. And those complicate, companies' books or your tax returns, so to speak, right? So from that aspect, it's always good to have the foundational knowledge. Today, there are some universities who have already kind of started offering courses, and Roop, you have done that, at GSU, I believe, if I'm not wrong. But there are there are people who have come out with courses who do a pretty good job in laying out foundational knowledge. And frankly speaking, as an accountant or a CPA, I don't think we can do service to our clients if we didn't understand basics, or if we didn't understand operational aspects of crypto or digital assets or blockchain, right? So I think it's definitely useful to kind of go through some of these courses and kind of formalize your education, so to speak.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, Sumit, Anupam here. I just want to add one thing here, that all the early adopters for blockchain are financial companies. Like I've seen most of the major banks, they have few projects going on in blockchain because there's a real ROI on that. So to your point, people who are in finance area, if they get into understanding how the blockchain works, how the crypto works, without really getting into technical skills, is going to be a big boost for their long-term career. Because most of the financial transactions, let's say 10, 15 years down the line, will occur over blockchain. So that foundation will really help.
Let's make that 5 years.
Another 5 years. See, so what Rupi is saying, another 5 years. So sooner the better. Yeah. So yeah,
Sure.
Sooner the better. Because companies will prefer somebody who knows finance and who understands the fundamentals of blockchain. And you don't have to be technical for that. Yeah, just want to add my 2 cents there. on that.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example. I have no tech. I mean, I'm a CPA, my background is accounting and finance. I don't know the C of coding, but there are parts of me where to do my job, I needed to learn at least the basic language of what a technology guy is able to understand or speak, right? To kind of bridge the gap, so to speak.
Bridge the gap.
Yeah.
I see some questions here, Chandu and Preeti.
Yeah, Preeti, you were saying something, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So I had one question related to this. I see that blockchain is being used mostly in supply chain divisions, like to keep the track of which assets are being produced, or mostly in payments. But what is the use of blockchain in financial planning and analysis in the FP&A team?
Jagruti, you want to take that?
Yeah, very, very good question. So one of the things I tell pretty much everyone is blockchain is not a great application for everything that you can think of at this point just yet. And then reason being, as I kind of go back, when I think about blockchain, it's a subledger. So how would you be able to use your subledger, right? If your subledger has all the right data, it's appropriate data, data has been validated, it's accurate, it's complete information, you'll be able to use that data for whatever you need, whether it's FP&A, accounting, supply chain tracking, you name it, right? But again, it goes back to the source of data being reliable, complete, and accurate, right? Blockchain by default cannot assure that your data is reliable, accurate, or complete, right? And then that's where, I kind of go back and, always think about, is your source reliable? It's garbage in, garbage out. FP&A cannot do this. We really cannot do anything with FP&A applications if your data within the blockchain subledger is not reliable. But if it is, then you know what? Maybe you don't even need blockchain, right? If your ERP system, if your current accounting system, whether it's NetSuite, Oracle, SAP, or whatever you use, if you have all the information stored in a place that you can rely on it, you don't need blockchain. You likely can do all the FP&A projection work or budget, whatever you need without blockchain, so to speak. So again, it goes back to one, do you need blockchain? Two, is the information good enough for blockchain to do what it's supposed to do? FP&A, frankly speaking, today at like my company that I work with, I don't need blockchain to pull bunch of reports that I need for FP&A. I'm able to use my current ERP system. And here is why. I'm able to integrate our blockchain-based platform to our ERP system, and combined solution is able to pull what I need for my FP&A stuff.
Yeah, recently we have seen that Honeywell is using blockchain technology for their airspace for parts to see how old is that part, and especially in the supply chain division. So can that be used for financial planning and analysis, that data? I get your point that if our ERP or SAP data is fine, then we don't need to rely on blockchain. But if some companies are using the blockchain technology for recording their data or parts, like how old is that part or not, or like look at the customer base, like how much hands it has crossed. So can that be used?
Of course, yeah. I mean, by all means, like one of the primary applications I think of blockchain is in supply chain, where you can track, recall time frame, for example. Like what you're talking about is, probably tracking that, I guess a particular asset on the supply chain to maybe, whatever the use case might be. FP&A is pretty broad, right? Like, so for example, if I'm able to tell, here is a particular part that I ordered from, country A, and it's delivered to country Z, right? And here's the time it takes. And by the way, by the time that part got to country Z, it's no longer, it needs to be returned for whatever reason. It's damaged product, right? Using blockchain technology, if it's used properly, if it's, I guess, formulated properly, I'll be able to track exactly where that part came from, and then be able to trace where in the supply chain that part is, and maybe take actions faster than what I would today if I was using my existing ERP system. Now, if I look at my ERP system, right, ERP is all historical stuff. It's stuff, it records stuff that already happened. Whereas blockchain, it has the ability to record information on a real-time basis. If it's used with something like an IoT device, maybe there's an RFID or some sort of tracking device that you're using on that physical asset, so to speak, right? To track movement of that asset through the supply chain process. Yeah, combined with all of that, absolutely. I mean, I think there are a lot of use cases where I'm able to save money if I'm able to track an asset and maybe do something with it before, before letting it just sit there and, find out that, oh, well, this needs to be recalled and I need to return it. And yeah, I think there are a lot of use cases there.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe along with artificial intelligence and
Oh, even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also like something, unique with the blockchain eventually, or within supply chain, is also the payments, right? And the payment processing of that just within, a supply chain, and the amount of money they'll save on transactional fees going from one place to another. Like you think of like Cisco, who supplies napkins and straws and everything all over the world, and the amount of, the payment processing that they do within just their internal company, not even with, external, is extreme. So there's payments, but then also like Jagruti said with, real time of supply, think of like refrigeration or even the vaccines or things like that, that like are a little bit more sensitive to tracking as well, and being able to recall or anything of that nature. Like I know a big company that does refrigeration for chicken products that's heavily looking at this, because they have a big problem, tracking it and making sure the temperatures were always in alignment. And the technology can just make it easier and more fluid, right? If done right on the blockchain. But I think there's endless use cases, and I think we're still even just coming up with them, or just, it's an interesting time. But also, like Jagruti said, is a lot of people, I remember early days, everybody just wanted to build something on the blockchain because blockchain sounded cool. And it sounded like, but no, it doesn't, there are very specific use cases. Even, there's lots of disruption in my industry from a talent acquisition standpoint of digital asset of somebody's resume and credentials and certifications and education and all of that. So you're seeing it really everywhere.
That's great. That's great, Melissa.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Chandu, if you want to ask your question next, you have been waiting for a while.
Yeah. Hi, this is Chandu. Actually, I work as an data architect, and basically throughout my last 10 years of my career, I have been working with the data. So I'm pretty much interested in getting into blockchain technology. So as a starter, and you guys are expert in this, so can you suggest me a course or a certification that we can get started to learn, so that we can be applying for the jobs on a basic level? Because I don't know anything about the blockchain technology. Yeah, I have been invested or into the cryptos, but I don't have much knowledge on this.
I'll take that. So there's a few avenues you can go. MIT has a course, Sage College of Business has a course online. Both of them are decently advanced, and they're not introductory, I would say. There's a lot of free information available online if you just want to research and learn on your own. There's plenty of stuff available online these days. You can go to Udemy, you'll find some basic courses. There's a Princeton-based course, I think on Udemy or Coursera, one of the two. That was one of the first ones that came out, and that's pretty good for cryptography if you want to go on the technical side of things. So look at Udemy, you look at Coursera if you just want to learn on your own. The idea of certification is still developing. There are a few certifications out there, but none of them are so big or widely recognized yet. You know, so it's mostly about what knowledge you want. On my end, we have been teaching 2 courses. We'll get to it for details later. But if you just go on to my video platform, you can watch over 50 hours of free video content and learn a lot. You can read a lot of articles and a lot of research papers. So just sit online and research. The bigger challenge, in my opinion, is actually what to learn, because there is too much information.
Yeah, that's my exactly, because I have been searching through all this internet and I see a lot of information that is available. But if you suggest us like to get started with one particular thing, so we might have a way to learn in an easy manner.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with Udemy or Coursera. Both of them are relatively cheap, and there are a few courses out there. Again, not industry standard, but good to get started.
Anything you particularly recommend a course in Udemy or Coursera?
I mean, I wouldn't recommend any one of them or anyone in particular, because I don't know, which direction you want to go. Some are more business oriented, some are more technical oriented. So you just have to figure out which niche you want to go to. My viewpoint on the space is more on the business side. So I have an interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary course, which is at the intersection of business and technology. And we usually teach that, we started teaching it as an open enrollment program as executive education for executives. And now we only teach that in corporate settings as a customized program. So Sumi just posted my link tree, so you can look at our courses and look at the curriculum there. So you'll get an understanding of the breadth and depth of what you need to learn as well.
Sure.
I
Thank you.
I would like to chime in for just a minute with that too, from a technical side, not the business side. There are some boot camps coming up that are really starting to do true blockchain technology. So I'd be looking at some. I know there's one in Miami in particular. I forget the name, but be looking for boot camps if you're already a technologist. And then another thing, I think it was mentioned, but I think there's not a lot of good out there, to be really frank. What's really going on is bigger companies are taking really smart, intelligent technologists that understand the fundamentals of what blockchain is and the technology behind it, and then allowing you offering you that ability to learn within their ecosystem. So, and maybe you don't go after a startup that's building on blockchain, because the startup probably will need you to kind of hit the ground running. But like the bigger companies, IBM, even Anthem, like big insurance companies, like there's lots of industries that are hiring. So it's like, if you come in with really deep data architecture skills, and then you've taken courses on just learning the fundamentals of blockchain, and then getting into an environment that's going to allow you to have exposure, I think is also another avenue to take.
Yeah, that's a good point, Melissa. So if you go on Hyperledger, there are some free technical courses on Hyperledger. IBM also has some free basic technical courses. So feel free to research those.
Sure. Thank you.
Anyone interested in accounting and finance side of blockchain, then AICPA has quite a bit out there.
Yeah, I saw some of those courses, Jagriti, on the CPA website. They are like a few hours, couple of days type of sessions. Pretty good. Great. Alok, do you want to go next with your question, please?
Yeah. So I have been studying this blockchain for a long, and I've been in manufacturing domain. So things are like, when we go for blockchain, number of cryptocurrencies came out of that. Then we came with Ethereum, a lot of smart contracts came, and then Ripple came into factor. So how do you see Ripple in future? Is it really going to materialize, or it's just not going to?
I'm sorry, how do we see what? I missed.
He's talking about Ripple, the company Ripple.
Oh, Ripple, sorry.
Yeah, it's more controlled blockchain environment. So I don't
Right.
see.
So Alok, my standpoint is that I will not answer your question because I don't answer particular questions on particular companies. Just because in my role it becomes dicey, this is public. So the larger point that you're making is probably between certain values. You think of Bitcoin and Ethereum as a movement and a technology with a certain set of values. And then you look at Ripple and you say, well, this is the same technology, but it has different set of values. It has been used for a different purpose. So the bigger point to understand here is, just like fire, just like a car, just like a pen, the values of the user really defines what the use case is going to be like. So you could use fire to make money or burn somebody's, you can use fire to make food. I'm thinking of money all the time, I guess, subconsciously. You can use fire to make food, or you can use fire to burn somebody's house. It depends on what your intentions are. So technology is just a tool, and there will be a lot of different manifestations of it. You mentioned 3, there are over 5,000 different manifestations of it with different set of values. Let's not conflate the technical or the technology aspect of what it can do to what values the use case or the company that's utilizing it might profess.
Yeah. So the question I asked was because once we are going in blockchain and having such a huge experience, we want to find a correct path, right? I'm totally in agreement what you're saying. It's just that when we are making a deep dive into some other technology that we are not used to, what's the best thing to think in terms of future, right? Like we go for Ethereum, okay, that's fine. There is a public platform, and then Hyperledger comes into picture. Okay, they are more comparative in nature, right? Then where to go? Should we follow the Hyperledger path, or should we? So those things brings a lot of recoil. What to do, what not to do.
No, fair enough. So your question really is, if you were talking 20 years back, it would be, should I study Java or should I study C++? Which one is going to win? Right. So I guess we are still at a stage where there is no clear winners. And I don't believe that there will be for a while. There will be multiple of these platforms that will succeed, and they will succeed in specific domains, meaning Ethereum may be great for particular use cases and Hyperledger for some other type of use cases. So it's hard to choose. I would not just choose based on technology, but I would choose based on what kind of domain and use case you want to get into. I would use that as your focal point. So for instance, if you see value in developing NFTs for art or for any kind of, let's say, video games, I would just go into that space versus if you want to get into payments and remittances and loans and lending and more of a financial side of things. So you can choose that world and see which one of these platforms is actually making business progress there.
Okay. And the second question is like, once we know as a solution architect, we know, okay, this is going to be a value, but it's very hard to educate the upper level what that use case can be. Like we are saying, okay, let's talk about Moen. It's a $50, and there is a Danko, which is a replica of that, which is like $30, right? Moen comes with lifetime warranty, and Danko doesn't come, right? So we can have that blockchain to track that for lifelong visibility, and that value, that $20 extra that we are getting, it's a more value. But how to get this in front of the business to make that more sense to them, that becomes a challenge.
Yeah,
because
you tell them to talk to me.
Okay.
What I do for a living. So we do, we have a program called Blockchain Strategy for Business Leaders. It's a 4-day intensive program, and the outcome of that, or one of the outcomes, is that you have your top 3 blockchain-based use cases. You have a business model behind it. You have a value proposition behind it. You figured out which use cases are suitable for blockchain, which are not. You've looked at what's happening in the industry. You've looked at the why behind the use case, not just the how to implement it. So it is a longer process, but you can go on these links posted there. You can look at that program and see some of the things people have said, and that's what we specialize. So I commiserate with you. I understand it's a challenging process. And the answer, the simple answer in my mind is I look everything in this space through the lens of disruption. Either you're surviving disruption or you're creating disruption. There is no other option. There is no other choice. So if they understand that, then they should be paying attention to the space. The question you should ask them is blockchain an opportunity, a threat, or a risk for your company? Why? And if they don't have an answer to that question, ask them to call me.
Yeah, Miss, that question arises first once they know what that blockchain is going to do, right? Then they can think of the SWOT analysis. So we have to bring that first on their table to make them understand, okay, this is what and what value it can provide, then they can think of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alok. Thank you, Roop, for answering. And then this brings to the last question for the day is, and maybe Melissa, if you can help us there, is if somebody has to like find a job opportunity on the blockchain, what are the job portals or the websites? How should they look for the jobs?
I mean, it's so easy. You can literally go anywhere. LinkedIn has a lot, Indeed has a lot. There is some specialized. You could certainly come to me. But there's jobs everywhere. I've got to be, it's honest right now. Like the market is tight. It's hard. The supply and demand outweighs in almost all. And I'm talking mostly from a development standpoint because that's my expertise in staffing is software development. But there's a shortage of, like I said, all facets. So don't think just technology. We're going to need those just consulting experts. So they're out there. They're posted pretty much everywhere. There is no main good site, but there are a couple. Just a Google search will help you find them.
Got it. So it looks like there is no specific sites where the jobs are posted, more like normal websites like LinkedIn.
There's one-offs. There are, and you can just Google them and find them.
Sure.
But there isn't one major site, no. But there's lots of different organizations too, and little academies. I mean, there's just so much out there. It's like trying to weed through. And, you have to be sort of cognizant and careful too, of where you're getting your information, who's delivering it, what their credentials are, because there's, again, it's just very new. So it's still a little bit the wild, wild west, to some degree.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Melissa, one last question before we leave.
Uh-huh.
So do you guys hire anyone who has an experience with the data and then you train them and then hire them? Is there any process with you guys?
I don't necessarily train them or get them a job, but I can help them find jobs and companies that will allow them the opportunity to learn it, especially if you already are a technologist.
Okay.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks. Preeti, you were raising your hand. Do you have any final questions for the team?
Yeah, I wanted to know, so now that we see that there are more cryptocurrencies than fiat currency itself, so what is the future of these cryptocurrencies? And
That's a $1 billion question.
and in case I have to make some investment, how to identify which currency could be, I know it's very difficult to say that, but still, like, how to identify which cryptocurrency might have a potential to be a big thing.
So Preeti, I'm not smart enough to answer that. Let's pass it on to Jagruti, the smartest person.
I wouldn't call me smart. And here is why. So I got into crypto via BitPay. BitPay was my first exposure to blockchain and Bitcoin altogether in 2014. Bitcoin was $200 back then. And I'm here, young audit manager, very skeptical about everything. And I was like, I can't believe that someone would, want to invest in a asset that is created out of thin air. So I'm not going to buy a $200 asset. I saw that go all the way to $60,000 recently, and I'm the one who's stupid. So anyways, I just watched that whole journey, right, without doing anything. But I don't think I'm the one who can give any sort of investment advice by any means. But what I can tell is I started as a skeptic 2014, right? And then now I'm literally all into blockchain technology with digital asset application from purely a utility standpoint. And so I believe in it. I think crypto assets, the legit ones, are here to stay. For sure, there is a true application. I cannot comment on the investment side, All I'll say is that, look, I would put in, if I had the money that I'm okay with losing, like whatever I'm okay with not worrying about, I may consider putting that amount in, but I cannot advise anyone anything beyond that.
And how do you see the future of all these cryptocurrencies? Because even if for USD currency, you see there is a cryptocurrency for USD also. So, I mean, even each country produces their own cryptocurrency, but still we have more cryptocurrencies now. So, where do you see it all going?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is more like stable coin, where, like, for example, USDC, which is a stable coin here in the US, right? Or it's one of the companies that created one. It's backed by $1. I think stable coin has a different utility altogether. I wouldn't call stable coin more as an investment strategy, so to speak. The whole purpose of someone owning a stable coin is transacting, I would say, transacting on digital platform using a digital asset. And it's easier to do that on a stable coin. For example, if I had a USDC here in the US, and if I could use that USDC, say in India, to buy, merchandise or buy some products without having to deal with foreign currency conversion or, foreign currency conversion, or wait a day or 2 days to convert my dollars to Indian rupees or whatever, I could use a digital asset like within seconds. It's in my wallet and I'm able to use that anywhere in the world, right? So I think that utility it kind of stands on its own. I wouldn't call that necessarily investment strategy, so to speak, but it's a utility that, you could have, so to speak. I think there are about 10,000 plus cryptocurrencies today. A lot of them
Wow.
come and gone. They just don't exist, kind of thing, right? But some of the major ones like Bitcoin, ETH, you mentioned XRP, someone earlier. I mean, Bitcoin Cash. I mean, those have been around for a while. They all have some utility. There's a payments use case to all of them, by the way. And then, like the company I work with, right? I mean, we see a payments use case. There are users out there who own these crypto, who are willing to use these crypto to buy merchandise. So to me, there's a benefit in owning those. And obviously, you got to make kind of your own investment decision based on when to buy and when to sell.
Great. Thank you, Jagriti. So everyone, I think we are on the top of the hour. It's 7 o'clock right now. Any final thoughts or suggestions for anyone looking for a career transition or a job opportunity?
My final thought is you can watch this space either play on your screens and you can watch other players as a spectator, or you can jump into the game and become a player yourself. The choice is yours.
Well said.
This movement, this technology, this disruption is not going away, regardless of what skeptics have said. An interesting data point, all these banks that were, that we now call, are so interested in crypto and so interested in blockchain, they're the same banks that were naysayers not long time ago, maybe just 5 years ago. I saw a post which listed 12 of them today. So the point is that this space is not going to go away. It is going to increase. A lot more use cases are going to become more mature. There will be digital assets as investments and as technology-led disruption to shift a lot of industry. So the choice is yours. You can watch it and keep watching it, or you can jump into the field and become a player.
Great. Well said, Roop. Melissa, Jagriti, any final thoughts from either of you?
I mean, I think Roop summed it up perfectly. You know, I think it is the future of a big part of the future of technology. And I think all aspects in all businesses of a majority will be affected by it in some way. So, and we're still early adopters, and Jagruti, we
Sure.
still have time. We still have time to make our millions.
I know, it's not too late, right? From 200 to whatever.
Right. We're still, like, everybody collectively, even on this call, is early stage, right? It's still so new, even though you know, it's now over 10 years old, but it's so big and so powerful and has so, you know, it takes a while to mature and nurture and get it to where it needs to be. Like everything we all look at, I mean, this is a silly little example, but like Microsoft, you know, they didn't make it big till 25 years deep, right? Like it takes a while for profound things to come to light. But if you're early on and you're, you know, in it now, your future's bright.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Any final words, Jagruti, from you?
I think you got both of you guys. I mean, I would echo exactly what you said. You know, it's like, it's one of the things I tell, you know, people I work with is, if you're not into the space, it's completely okay. It's okay to just kind of start learning by, you know, create a wallet, right? You know, do some self-learning, you know, maybe own a fraction of some sort of digital asset and just play around with it. If you get to a position where you're comfortable enough that you believe in it, then, you know, you know what the future holds for you. And if not, then, you know, there's many other things out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, thanks, Jagruti. And in fact, thanks to all three of you, Roop, Melissa, Jagruti. Thank you very much again for contributing. I'm sure everybody had a lot to learn from the session, a lot of excellent takeaways. And Roop, as you summed up, either you can be a spectator or you can be the player. I think the choice is upon us, on everybody. Which role do we want to play?
Yeah,
So with that,
yeah, Sumit, thanks for that. Just a quick plug-in for the TAG Blockchain Society. So I'm going to post the link here. You guys can all go there. We're all part of the Technology Association of Georgia's Blockchain Society. We talked about asset tracking use cases. So we have a panel coming up, I believe July 21st or 22nd on exactly that topic. And we are also about to launch 4 new programs: a mentorship program for blockchain founders, a startup program called Tag Blockchain Stars, a legal working group, and also a demo day. So keep an eye out for those emails, and our LinkedIn will definitely talk about that over there, and just become part of that movement and learn and help others learn as well.
sounds good. Thank you so much, Roop, for sharing the information.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you all. I wish you luck in your journey.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to all the participants as well. Great contribution, excellent dialogue.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.